Oh boy. What's up, everybody? Let's see. How can I see the chat? Or maybe no one's chatting. What's going on? I can't see who's in the room. Let me see if I join it on my... What's up? What's up? Can't see who's in the room. Well, that thing is behind me. Now I can see it. What's up, Trevor? Hi, Adriana. Hey, Carol. What's going on? Welcome, welcome. Oh, I see. Oh, see, now I can see the chat. Okay. Very cool. Sorry, guys. It's my first time doing this on YouTube. I'm usually doing it on Instagram. Well, last few weeks. Give everyone another minute or two to get in here. That's crazy. See, I have my iPad up so I can see what's happening on the screen, and you guys are like, I don't know, maybe like 10 seconds behind me. What's going on? Well, that's cool. So you guys can see the chat, of course, yeah. Hey, hey, what's up, Kiki? Good to see you. Of course, I recognize your profile picture. Awesome. We're going to get started in 30 seconds. Well, I'm going to get started. Just see if any stragglers come in. How's everybody doing? What's the craziest thing you've heard this week? I'm trying to think what that would be for me. Yeah. Somebody just texted me and said I should have set it up in landscape. Yeah, I didn't think of that. Next time. Instead of horizontal, because these are great for shorts, but not the best for YouTube videos. Well, now I know. Anyway, I just wanted to talk to you guys. I realized that, you know, a lot of people know me from my shorts. Not everyone listens to my podcast, at least not religiously enough to know who I am and what the hell I'm doing and why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I thought I would talk a little bit about that, and then I would love to have a conversation with you guys, whoever's still with me, about some of the content we have coming out and some of the shorts that you've enjoyed the most. And I want to tell you guys about a new series that I have coming out. If you've been tuning into the podcast, then you've probably heard me talk about being an actor in New York City for, let's see, 21 years, I think. I moved in October of 9/11. Right after 9/11, I moved in. So pursuing the arts for the better part of 2 decades. And then, thankfully, 2020 happened, which was a wonderful slap in the face. Debt ceiling seems to be non-existent. Yeah, well, that's happening too. Tell me about it. Yeah, they're gonna, I think they're just mad at the people who are caving in because they don't want them to make anything easy for the Democrats. But at this point, they're just going to remove the debt limits completely. I mean, that's the plan. Anyway, yeah, that's one of the craziest things I've heard too. But so I went from, trying to achieve a material success in acting and struggling a lot with habits, with addiction, with a lot of unhealed, unintegrated trauma, and a lot of self-loathing, and also a lot of emotional blocks. I don't know if anybody finds that certain emotions come a lot easier to them than others. For me, that was always the case since growing up in the household that I did. And so, as an actor, I was playing these roles, and I was having a lot of trouble being vulnerable in front of people, and it was a physiological block. So, and I wasn't even aware of where it came from. So I don't know if anyone has ever had any awareness in themselves, feeling like they've been walled off from certain emotions, and trying to figure out where it comes from, which is a challenge because we hide trauma in the body, and we wall it off in our minds, so we don't have to think about it, and it's kind of a natural protection. The problem with that is you keep putting up walls, and you're limiting your vision, you're limiting your sight and your perspective. And that's a fact, and what happens is we just keep putting up walls, things we don't want to see, things we don't want to remember, and then all of a sudden we can only see and understand a very limited amount of reality. And I kind of got hit in the face with this reality around 2010. I was trying to do this role, and it was a tremendous crash and burn. I couldn't get near it, and I couldn't figure out why. And I had a great acting teacher tell me, you need to find out why you built Fort Knox over your emotional center. And of course, he pointed intuitively to his heart chakra. And at the time, I don't even know if I could spell chakra, but I was like, I know I needed to figure this out. And so I set out on this journey, determined to get the help I needed to open my heart to be a better actor. That's what I thought I was doing. And it was all about that, it was all about that. Anger and F-bombs, yeah, they come easiest, I think, especially to those of us who have been put through it, Anger was, are you kidding? Anger was like that. That was the most emotionally displayed emotion in my house, was anger. A lot of it. A lot of rage. I learned that from the time I was very little. In fact, I have this picture I can show you guys of me growling when I was about 3 years old, and I know it's a face that I learned from my father. I mean, I look cute, don't get me wrong, but it's a crazy picture. And I saw this home video of when I was like 3 years old, and my cousin was trying to restrain me. It was at my birthday party. It's a silent video. And you see me, and I'm like losing my temper at 3 years old. I used to have a terrible temper. Oh man. Yeah. It took me a long time to get rid of that too. But what I was saying was, I started out and I started getting talk therapy, because if you're in Manhattan and you're an actor, you should, they say you should be in therapy anyway. Self-acceptance is the best discovery. That's exactly right, Carol. Self-acceptance is the ultimate goal, because it leads to self-love. And self-love is the true hero's journey that we're all on, to find what it means to love the self unconditionally. And that was the road that I was on. And I thought I was doing it for my career, which is funny when I look back on it now. I thought I was doing it to become the next Marlon Brando. Um, and first I had to figure it out, right? I was in therapy for years. I remember sitting down with my therapist, and I had read a book that my acting teacher recommended called Homecoming by John Bradshaw. And this book talked about what a family is supposed to be. It talked about how your parents are supposed to be your emotional role models. And I read that and I thought, oh my God, am I in trouble? I felt so bad for my wife I had only recently married. I thought, man, I thought I was in such trouble. And I was in a lot of trouble, but I was realizing where I needed to put my energy. Because I had no emotional role models growing up besides fury and rage. And so I learned that. And you know, we learn by the actions that we see as much as our chill guru angry. I swear, Kiki. I swear, Christine. I was angry in general, but I covered it with a lot of jest, right? Because that's usually what lies underneath people who are class clowns, and you know, I was a class clown. I was always in trouble, but I had a lot of rage. I've come a long way to be where I'm at, but so like there was a moment in talk therapy when, because I read this book and I asked the therapist, and I was a sincere question because I didn't know, and I'm sharing this because I think a lot of people are struggling with why they're stuck in a pattern and they're not quite aware of where the pattern comes from. Why they keep running into the same problems that, you know, are showing up in their life, whatever it may be. And I had no idea. I had no idea. I thought that I came from a totally functional family, you know. I thought that, you know, good parents beat the shit out of their kids because that was the best form of discipline, you know. And to this day, if you ask my parents, they'll tell you I was a bad kid. Me and my twin brother were bad kids, and so everything we got, we deserved. It's funny because I let my parents watch my kids for a few days when I was moving out of New York, and my dad came back to me and said, "Hey, you know what? You got really lucky. Your kids are good." Oh my God. And I was like, yeah, I mean, luck of the draw, you know. I swear to God, he said that. Anyway, I was saying, so I said to my therapist, because I read this book and it told me that, you know, if you have parents that hit you, that's abuse. That, you know, if that is the threat, if it's a corporal, what do they call it? You know, if your parents are free with their hands, usually that comes with a very easy trigger. You know, a temper, a rage. You know. Yeah, that's the other side of it, Carol. You can be a good kid. Yeah, you can be a good kid and still get beat up if you have parents who. I mean, I don't think kids can be inherently bad. I mean, I'm sure there's an exception to the rule, don't get me wrong. There's exceptions to most, quote, rules. And some kids are probably born, you know, with a lot of ancestral trauma, with a lot of things that maybe make them more prone to what we would call bad behavior. But I think that all kids are inherently good. Not all parents are the most well equipped, you know, to bring that out. I believe that now. I didn't know or understand that, you know, when I was growing up, and I probably didn't know that, you know, as a young adult either, because, you know, if somebody had asked me, I would have said, you know, no, I was a bad kid. If you ask my parents, they'll still tell you that. But I know now that that's not really the way it goes. You know, it's funny, people will talk about pets and they'll say, oh, there's no bad pets. There's just bad pet owners. But when it comes to kids, all of a sudden, there's bad kids. I mean, that makes no sense to me at all. But I said to finish this story, you know, I asked my therapist, I said, so this book says that, you know, if your parents hit you and beat you up, that even if they did it as a form of discipline, that it's abuse. I said, are you telling me that I was abused in oh, you've got 9 kids, Christine? Wow. 2 of them are this bottom. Wow. I didn't know you had so many kids, Christine. Yeah. But I asked her and I said, are you telling me that like my parents were abusive? And she just looked at me and she was waiting to see if I was serious, like if the question was sincere. And we sat there staring at each other for a minute, and she shook her head and she said, yes, Faust, that's what that means. And I was like, okay, I don't know why we had to have a stare off for a minute for you just to answer my question. I was clearly I'm still in denial about a lot of things. So you know, I was like catatonic there for a while, trying to reconcile what I was learning about emotional role modeling, parenting, what a functional family looks like, with the fact that I didn't see or learn much of any of it growing up. And then I started to understand where these emotional blocks came from, you know. I mean, my whole life, whenever someone put a hand up, I was like, my instinct was to duck. Does anyone else have that instinct? If a hand flies, before you can even think about it, you're like, you know, you're blocking. That's a post-traumatic stress. That's what that is. I mean, I put myself in some embarrassing situations and given myself away, you know, simply by that reflex, which is uncontrollable, you know. I think, I don't think you're crazy, Christy. Yeah, I mean, it's instincts, but, you know, there's a point, you know, and then, I mean, if you have that kind of reaction, you're living under a lot of fear, right? And, you know, my father would raise his hand and you were wise to get out of the way or run, you know. And so you learn to duck and cover. At least I did. I watch home videos and I see it happening in, you know, and that's just like a little slice of life. And even with the camera rolling, you know, those triggers were in full effect. So anyway, I'm sharing this because I had no idea. I had no idea. You know, I had to come to the awareness of it first, and I had to seek out what a functional family looked like. And lucky for my wife, I learned about it just in time as we were having our firstborn. Maybe right afterwards, right around that time. And then it was a process, you know, because you can learn about what happened all day. It's not going to necessarily heal you, right? Yeah, I mean, most people are dysfunctional. I mean, it's okay. Did I learn to forgive and move? Absolutely, Carol. I learned to, I went from kind of being in a state of shock to, you know, having this kind of disbelief about my father. But then I realized, you know, and forgave them. Really, it didn't take long once I understood. I could dodging and joking. That's right. That's absolutely right. I was always good at joking. The dodging came a little later. At least the boxing did. I was good at dodging too. I played a lot of sports. But I totally forgave. You know, look, my dad had did not have an easy go at it. His father, his father didn't bother to open his hand, and my dad would tell me that, after he would come down on this, he would say, listen, when I got it with a closed fist. In other words, be grateful the hand is open, which I was grateful the hand was open. It would have hurt a lot worse with the hand closed. But the point is like every generation has a little more awareness, even if they're not working on it. I've never had an instinct or a proclivity to raise my hand to a child, or in spite. People have very hard time forgiving what was done to them. But I always say, until you are not free yourself, until you can truly forgive that person. And if there are people out there, God bless them, that can come into such a profound understanding to forgive their child's, you name it, that is the most incredible miracle that happens when you see those videos of people who forgive the crimes that were committed against them. That kind of power, I believe it has a profound impact on the planet. But you have to do that for you, not for them, and not for the camera, not for anyone else. When you do that, you free yourself. You free yourself from those bonds, and they are bonds. And the bonds will drag you down. They'll keep you from your highest self. And so I didn't, I love my parents. I love my father. I wouldn't be who I am. In essence, he gave me the greatest gift, being who he was. Because I would have never figured myself out in the way that I have if I had not had to overcome the physiological, ramifications of growing up like that. How's my twin brother, Christine? He's on his own journey. He's coming along. He's made incredible progress over the last 2 years. He really took a spiritual turn. I'm so proud of him. He's going to go to a Dr. Joe Dispenza retreat in July, which I am thrilled about. I've been trying to encourage him to go for a long time, and he found it. You can tell someone to do something all day. That doesn't. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. He found the workshop he wanted to go to. He watched all the videos. He devoured them. I've spent almost 7 weeks with Dr. Joe Dispenza. 7 weeks in retreat with him. And those 7 weeks fundamentally changed everything about me. Absolutely everything. And every time, every week I spent with him, my whole life was rearranged in a way that was just synchronistically magic. I don't know how else to put it. Spending that much time in meditation with someone who's so adept at meditation, at guiding people into liberating energy and overcoming trauma, and rearranging the mind to be present and to have the heart open. And the heart is a key factor. And we would do, like Dr. Joe, if Dr. Joe lived in ancient Egypt, he would run a mystery school and have people being initiated. That would be what he was doing, and probably what he was doing back then, because that's kind of what he's doing now. And we used to do crazy, before COVID hit, he used to do these, we would do things that would put us in a position to come right up against our fear, and we would have to open our hearts and overcome that fear. We would spend all week meditating. We were in Toronto one year, and he set it up so that every single person who attended the workshop could rappel off a 45-story building in Toronto. Okay, and when somebody told me this, I was like, that's funny. What's the real what's the actual thing we're going to do? And like, is there an obstacle course? I was like, and then I was walking by the first day, and there's this hallway that connected the Hyatt to the convention center, and I see people looking up and out the window. And I was like, what's everyone looking at? And it was like, oh, they started. And I'm like, are there window washers? And he was like, no, the fear, they started repelling. And I was like, he was serious about that? And sure enough, there was people coming down the side of the building. I mean, he had over 1,000 people rappel down a 40. You know how, I mean, like, if you've never rappelled, you have to go over the edge, of a 42-story building. You have, you're tied. You're secure, but you still have to control yourself and get down. And can you do it without letting your heart race into oblivion? Some people were just like, let's get. But I took my time and tried to open my heart in the face of that, because I used to be scared of heights. I used to be scared to fly at one point. And then I was returning from a Dr. Joe retreat, and I realized that I wasn't gripping my neighbor. When we hit turbulence on the takeoff, I realized that I didn't even think about it. I also realized that the anxiety that I felt whenever I would leave my wife and my kids for a workshop or for anything, the moment I was gone, I would start to have anxiety. I would feel like I need to get home, and it made me do crazy things. And I don't know where it came from, but when I started to do this kind of meditation work, it kind of went away. I mean, it shows up if I'm away from them long enough, because I just genuinely, I'll miss them enough to where I start to get, homesick, and I feel sick being away from them. But I realized that I didn't have this anxiety that would come on me the moment I was away, and that's because I felt whole. That's because I felt like they were with me. I knew they were with me, and I knew that what I was doing was going to change everything for them. And I was right. I was absolutely right. My intuition was right on. And so I didn't have this pang of like, what are you doing? This anxiety spike. And the trust that I have in my intuition now is, it's beyond measure. I know that there's nothing random, and I trust where my heart leads me. But it took me a long time to get to that place. Yeah. But so my whole point is, like, I feel like we are all, because trauma lives in the body, right? It doesn't live up here. This does a good job of keeping it delegated to the body and out of the mind. And I was at a Greg Braden retreat about 3-4 months ago, and we were doing this breath work. I talked about this breath work in my podcast with Rob Gauthier, and the link to it is included in the comments and the video description of this. But if you guys want to, there's this incredible. He was doing plant ceremonies in Costa Rica, and then he left that because it was the breath work part of that he would integrate that into the plant ceremonies. He was drawn to, and what they're finding in all the latest science is that these peptides that get stuck when there's trauma, they can measure them. They can absolutely detect them, and they can see how they are metabolized while people do this breath work. So you can kind of skip the therapy. I mean, I'm not saying you should, but I'm saying if you're doing this kind of work, this kind of active, like whether it's breath work, whether it's meditation, as long as you're doing something to continually heal from some trauma that you probably don't even remember you have, that keeps the body healthy, right? Because trauma gets stored in the body. these peptides get stored because when trauma happens, the body doesn't know what to do with it. And so it stores it. It stores it in the liver. It stores it in the organs. Sometimes it stores it in the muscle. What happens to those that don't get metabolized? I mean, what happens if you don't take the trash out? Eventually, it starts to get rotten, right? It starts to smell. You leave it there long enough, it'll start to get critters crawling all over it. You leave it there long enough, you're going to have a problem, one way or the other. There's no difference between that and trauma in the body. I cannot encourage you enough to take an active role in what you're doing to get rid of the trauma in the body. You get sick, exactly, Carol. People get sick and they don't know where it came from. But they haven't done a thing to... You can eat healthy, you can exercise, right? But there are some things that go deeper than that. And so this breath work, I'm gonna include a link to it in the video description if I post this, which I guess I should, even though it's straight down. I mean vertical instead of horizontal. And I'm going to have this guy on my podcast. I talked to him when I met him, and he said he would come on, and I've just been super busy. But speaking of busy, I finally got Bruce Lipton. So I'm sure there's a couple of you who have heard of Bruce and are fans. Christine, you've heard of Bruce, right? Bruce Lipton, I met him years ago, and I met him a few times, and we've talked a few times. But I've been trying to get him on my podcast for like a year and a half, and he's super busy, traveling everywhere, and he finally got back to me. So he's coming on in July. He knows about everything we're talking about, that's for sure. He knows about programs. Yeah, but so look for that link in this. He does online sessions, and you don't necessarily have to do a one-on-one with him. This breath work is incredible. I swear to God, I did it. And like, so we set intentions before we did it, because he's like, listen, the moment some of this trauma gets out of the body, some of the things that have been looking for you and that you've been looking for they're just gonna meet up with you. So he was like, I'm gonna show you how that works. And I know how that works because I know the law of attraction and the law of resonance, and I've studied Abraham Hicks and Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I have all these wonderful teachers, so I know how that works. But I never heard it applied to breath work. And I never heard it, I understood how, yeah, absolutely, when you start telling your truth and ridding yourself of trauma, things are going to start to align for you, heart, mind, and body, right? And when you're aligned in those three things, magic happens to you. If you've ever experienced it, you know exactly. My therapy is chickens. Really, Christine, you're going to have to elaborate on that, so that we understand how you use chickens in your therapeutic manner. What the hell was I saying before chickens got here? Oh yeah. Oh, so no, the breath work. Oh yeah, so how this works. Okay, so we set an intention, and then we went into this hour-long, deep, what do they call it? It's like holotropic breathing, I think, is a name for the style of it. And I was like, let me make an intention. At the time, I was having a lot of trouble and some anxiety. That's right. Booking people for my podcast, getting people. And I was like, this is a pain in the butt, And I was like, it would be great. And I wasn't really attached to this outcome, but I just threw it out there because I thought, no, this is something we'll know right away, whether it happens or not. I thought my intention would be that I don't have any more trouble booking guests for my podcast. Okay, I swear to God, this is exactly what happened. By the time I left the retreat, I got 8 responses from the 2 wonderful people who work with me. They had emailed about 15 potential guests, some of whom I would have not emailed because I thought, well, that person's too big and important, and they're not going to respond, because when I reach out, it's usually in a very personal way. But I had 11 podcasts booked within the week. 11 weeks, 11 interviews. I had 11 interviews in 12 days. And usually I take like a week to prepare. I swear to God, that's how fast this worked. And I thought, this is just crazy. No one's going to believe me when I tell them this. But that's how fast things can happen for you. You know, I had this problem. I was not attached to the to the solution in any way. I simply put it out there. I put it in the field. And then I did the work. I did the breathing for an hour. And I swear to God, by the end of the day, I'm fielding. I'm like, they're like, no, we need your schedule like down to the hour. And I'm like, all right, here it is. All these things were booked. I'm still booked. I'm still booked months later. I still have podcasts lined up. The law of attraction and alignment works. You just have to know how to work it. And you also got to be aware of what might be getting in your way, right? And I'm really sure that just watching them pack and scratch around and pick the grass, very chill. It's very meditative. The chickens, yes. Oh, I love it. You know, that's why we have pets. That's why we love nature. Because it takes us out of ourselves and makes us present. You know, when you're watching your dog. Do you ever watch a dog like when they get on a scent, you know? I could watch a dog stay on a scent for like 20 minutes and not even... the time passes like that. It's amazing. Because they're so present when they're on that, when they smell something and they got to find what it is, that you just lock into them, right? I love that. Yeah, I think that's why we have such a love for animals, because in many ways, even as social as they are, and they're like family, but they make us present. They help us be present. So I know there's only a couple people with us, but how many of you guys are fans of the shorts, and how many of you guys are podcast, who tune into the podcast? I know maybe there's a few of you who do both, but I'm just curious because I'm sure that if you're along the ride for the shorts, then there's probably a few shorts that you're like, man, somebody's got to tell him to make a short about this. And if you're fans of the podcast, then I'm sure that, what's up, Charlie? Welcome. Thanks for joining, bro. I'm sure that there's guests and subjects that you would love to see me have on and discuss on the podcast. And I'm wondering if anybody has any suggestions that they would love to throw out. This is a great... Oh, hi, Carol, that's so great. I didn't realize that. You're just like, let me just see what the hell this guy's talking about tonight. That's awesome. Good for you. Are you glad you joined? I feel like you're in the right place, and I don't believe in accidents. Our breathing is a fragile vessel. Absolutely. With every breath comes salvation. I had a great voice teacher say that to me. It's so true, though. It's so true. Breathing is a big deal. I was listening to my mom breathe the other day, and she breathed so shallow. I said, Mom, you got to breathe deeper. You got to breathe into your diaphragm. What's up, Jaguar? Shorts are fun, but incredibly convincing. Yeah, I know. So we're going to be coming out with a new format, Jaguar. I'm getting a green screen, big old green screen. I'm setting this up. It's going to be sick. It's going to be awesome. Thank you, V. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thanks, Jaguar. I know you are, Christine. I appreciate you too. Thank you. Yes, so Jaguar, we're gonna be doing these 5 to 7 minute videos. We're gonna take some of the shorts that are just barely scratch the surface, and we're gonna go much deeper on them. And we're gonna use the green screen to bring people right into everything. And we're gonna call it Far Out Forensics. And, we're just going to present evidence and images and, almost like, not like a crime scene, but like we're going to show people what really happened with a lot of things that people would rather forget. So that's one new series we're gonna have coming out. Just waiting on the setup of the green screen to shoot it. So I'm excited about that because we've been stockpiling content that is just too much for a short, but would work great for one of these Far Out Forensic Files. Yeah. I appreciate you guys joining me tonight. I know it's crazy, it's Wednesday night, but I wanted to have something on YouTube. Next time I know now, I will, I'll shoot it the other way so it shows up horizontally. Is there anybody who is a fan of the podcast and has seen any recent episodes? And is there anyone who you guys are like, man, he should have so-and-so on? It's totally cool if not. Thanks, B. You guys rock. I so appreciate you joining me. Yeah, bro, you're gonna love it, Jaguar. It's gonna be great. We have a lot of stuff already ready. All I gotta do is get this green screen set up. But I'm moving in July, so I'm moving into a space that's gonna have a whole recording studio set up. So I'm gonna start. This is the other thing. I'm gonna start hosting some interviews, some of my podcasts in person. I'll have a setup there for that too. I'm so excited about that because I feel like, I feel like these days you have to do some things online, but when I can get someone to come in and sit with me, I'm very much looking forward to doing that as well. Absolutely, Christine. I love picking up the rug and and reminding people some things that I think that they would be wiser to be aware of these days, because there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda out there. I mean, a lot isn't the right word. There's like a tsunami avalanche of it. It's literally everywhere you look. And people don't know the truth about things. You can't know the truth about something you were never taught. So I'm just like, you should know who started our medical industrial complex and what they were about. Then you might understand the events of the last 3 years. They might not be such a why, there might not be so many questions. If you understand who set it up and what they were about, eugenics. I'm going to do another live where I get into some of that stuff, and I've been preparing for this. I'm doing a special in Antarctica. For those of you guys, I don't know if anyone has any interest in Antarctica, but if you knew what was hiding there, you would be interested. Trust me. I mean, there's worlds hidden under Antarctica, under the ice. It is incredible. And God willing, it comes out in our lifetime. Talk about history swept under the rug. Who's heard of Operation High Jump? Probably a few of you have. Well, you're going to hear about it. I'm going to do a big show about it. So much hiding under the ice. But what else can I finish telling you about myself? So I was on this journey and going through all these things, and I started doing Dr. Joe's retreats. I started meditating. I was working with a core therapist. I watched lots. Oh, you're gonna love this special we're doing, Carol. We're gonna be shooting it next week. It's a believers versus skeptics. It's part of that series, and I'm gonna be debating one of my colleagues who thinks that there's nothing under Antarctica, and I'm going to show him how he's absolutely wrong. That's what I always say, Christine. If we don't learn our history, we're doomed to repeat it, and that's what's been happening over and over. But just to round out and finish I started talking about how I got to where I am. I stopped going to talk therapy, and I started seeing a core therapist. Core therapists work with moving emotions that are in the body that are stuck, emotions and trauma, because they get stuck in the body. Core therapists will help you literally move and move those emotions out of the body. And a lot of people have emotions stuck in the body, the matrix world. Yeah, that's where we're living. And God bless my therapist. She's no longer with us, but she was an angel. She named my podcast. She named my channel. She named Far Out with Faust. She was such a beautiful person. She, every time we had a relationship. She was my core therapist for years, and then we became friends. And she moved to Mexico for a while. And she had gotten over cancer. She had gotten rid of a tumor and cured herself of. She was cancer-free for years, but she had an aggressive cancer and a tumor in her breast, and she refused Western medicine and just went on a spiritual journey of meditation, changed her diet, got a Chinese medicine doctor, and within 6 months, she had that tumor shrunk to nothing. She went to the doctors, and they were like, "What are you doing?" And she was like, "Why do you ask?" They were like, "The tumor is almost 60, 70% gone." She was like, "That's great. Isn't that great?" And they were like, "No, it's not great. What are you doing?" And that's the medical industrial complex, okay? They weren't happy for her. They wanted to know what she was doing, and they accused her of being crazy. Anyway, she got rid of that. Tumor disappeared. Cancer disappeared. Years later, she learned she was living in Mexico in an apartment that had black mold, and she developed lung cancer. And I think she realized it was her time to go, but what an angel. So I remember I sat down with her, and she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, I think I'm going to start a podcast. And without batting an eye, she said, "Oh, what's it going to be called? Far Out with Faust?" And I was like, And she was like, "You don't have to." I wasn't trying to put. I was like, "No, I think it's going to be called Far Out with Faust." I think that's perfect. I didn't know she was sick at the time, but yeah, it'd be interesting if you can introduce to your whole viewers the makers of the book, John F. Kennedy, The Unspoken Truth, A Request Awakening. It would be amazing if you could introduce to your whole viewers and Woken, the makers of the book, John F. Kennedy. Which book are you talking about, Jaguar? John F. Kennedy, The Unspoken Truth, is that the name of the book? I'm trying to figure out what you're referring to. Fasting is very powerful. That's like the number one go-to for a lot of people. Great power in fasting. The whole body resets. It's not something they'll tell you at any hospital because they don't really know that much about health. But anyway, 2020 came around. I was working on a film with someone who would become a great friend of mine, someone who started this channel with me, right? Oh, you are, Carol. That's why you're here. See that? There are no accidents. Carol's a healer. Unspeakable Truth. Oh, is that the name of the book? I'll check it out, Jaguar. I don't think I know it. Who wrote it? Do you know? So 2020 came around. I was working on a film, and my worlds were colliding. I was working on films at the time because I was an actor and a producer, a filmmaker. I produced like 5 feature films, which if you're into that, if you want to watch crazy films, you can check them out. They're good. They're good films. made some money on them, and some of them did really well. And anyway, I was doing a film. It got shut down because of the pandemic. I was doing a show. It got shut down because of the pandemic. Everything got shut down, and I was working with a director who's also, he's no longer in Hollywood. He was a screenwriter, and he sold his scripts for a lot of money. And one of the scripts that we were working on, he had sold to Brad Pitt, and then the option reverted. So it's all about consciousness. That's why I loved it. And I met him, and we haven't stopped talking since we met. And he was like, when we got shut down, he was like, dude, we got to do something. We can't just sit here. I was like, I know, but what do you want to do? What can we do? They won't let us do anything. He was like, we got to do something to help people wake up, because people are scared of this thing because they can't see the truth. How can we help them see the truth? I was like, I don't know, but if we try to tell them, we're going to get censored. He was like, not if we teach them how to see the truth, not if we help people understand. And so that's how the podcast came about. Dr. Sebi got off because he proved that you can. He's not the only one, Christine. People who create cures and solutions, they don't last long in this society. That's how it is right now. Yeah, Dr. Sebi is a legend. Did you ever hear of Dr. Brzezinski? It's a great documentary about him. I tell people all the time, don't give money to these cancer or cure black holes. It's a waste of money. I don't say that to be insensitive. It's just a fact. Save your money. Give it to someone on the street, even if they're going to buy a hit with it. That's money well spent compared to sending it to St. Jude's cancer research. Because the people controlling that money are controlling the cures for these things, okay? I just posted a video not long ago, some of you probably saw on Instagram, with Zach Bush talking about John F. Kennedy and the unspeakable truth. I will check it out, Jaguar. Definitely. I will check it out. But as we wind down, guys, yeah, so that's how I started this podcast and this channel. And we wanted to create content that would unplug people from the matrix so they could see reality. And so we do that in every way we can, right? I talk to people who will help me and my listeners understand. I make videos that will help people understand our history, which will help them understand reality instead of what they're told reality is, right? And that's my motivation. That's my passion. I love that. I love doing this, as much as, if not more than I ever loved acting. Maybe not on stage. I loved acting on stage a lot. But in film and TV, my God, you guys have no idea. It's so overrated. Just sitting around doing nothing, and then you get called and you go and you do your thing, and then it's more waiting. But good for you, Christine. Good for you. There's like a lag, so I don't know what I said that you're responding to. I'm like 5 minutes behind, I noticed. But this is my first live on YouTube, and I am honored to have been joined by you guys, and I appreciate the conversation. You guys are both wise beyond your. Oh, that's the author, John Douglas. I'm going to pick it up, Jaguar. I love book references. I love reading. I'm a closet nerd. Whatever, I'll say that. It's true. I still read a lot of books. I mean, I got a lot of books on Kindle these days because I'm reading so many books at one time. 500 pages. Awesome, man. I'll check it out. Yeah, healing inevitably comes from nature. And all these synthetic pharmaceuticals that they patent is an imitation of nature. All of them. They can't patent nature. They're not supposed to be able to. And when you see them create a patent for a medicine or a virus or things of nature, then you have to understand that they have taken that and they have synthesized it and made it into something that they can call their own, right? And that's usually not good. And they're going to try to do the same thing with a lot of the psychedelics that they're legalizing, because they can't patent it if it's not synthesized, right? They have to create it in a lab to put their names on it. So whatever they do, you can rest assured they have an agenda with it. So you should definitely find your own supply. That's what I do. You guys are awesome, man. So before I sign off, any other requests as far as shorts goes? And do you guys have any questions for me? Because I can answer from experience about something that you may be having trouble with in your life, as far as like a block or something that keeps coming up for you. If you're willing to share, I'm more than happy to try to answer and help. And also, as far as content, any questions at all for me, about me, even about me, whatever you want. Before we sign off, I want to give you guys the floor to do a true Q&A if you're interested. How about the man who created the engine powered by... You mean Stanley Meyer? There's more than one, Jaguar. I did a video about Stanley Meyer. I'm going to do a longer video about him. And I know people who knew the Meyers. Stanley Meyer, his name was. He was poisoned. His last words literally were, "They poisoned me." This dude had his car running on water. He created a true hydrogen fuel cell engine, right? But what happens to people who create solutions in this society? It's not good. It's a shame, but yeah. Yeah, Stanley Meyer. If you scroll down through my Instagram or through the short section on my channel, you'll see the video about Stanley Meyer. Incredible guy. Why not make a movie about a guy going on through videos with funny bloopers? I feel like I made a movie like that already. Although the spiritual journey is roundabout. I did make a movie similar to that, Christine. It's called Between Waves. It's about I play an author who, is like made a lot of money writing books, totally lost himself, totally miserable dude, having like he just turned 40, and wildly unhappy, even though he has all the material success in the world and can't figure out why. So he's like, he flies to his hometown in Florida, and then the comedy ensues, and he has to figure out what's important in life, and he gets his ass kicked, by life until he does. And that's kind of what that movie's about. It's called Between Waves. It's my homage to the 80s movies that I loved growing up. John Cusack and those guys were I love the movies they used to make. They're my favorite. So we got an explanation of the tattoos. The water crystal, yeah. So, this is all... Do you guys know who Daryl Anka is? Bashar? He has an interstellar enneagram, he calls it. And it's how to make contact. So each of these insignias is something that you could focus on in meditation to try to make contact with these civilizations who are related to us. That's what this is. This is Polynesian. This is Mayan. It's all geometry, right? And then you have every geometric, everything from Metatron's cube to the tree of life, male, female. Thank you, Carol. And so, I don't know if you guys remember, this used to be just the tribal band. And so this is gonna, you probably can't see the lines. He made the little lines where it's going to go. I don't know if you can see them or not. Just, he made marks for himself. Like, oh, like there's, I don't know. I can't see them in the thing. Maybe you can. But so this is going to be reflected on this side. This is kind of abstract, and this is three-dimensional. Yeah, check it out. It's called Between Waves. I mean, if you want to see me play, God, we did a crime thriller 2 years before that called Dead Draw. The movie made a lot of money overseas. We sold it overseas, and it made over $1 million, and we made it for like 200,000. But I play like this hardcore criminal, angry, like, I mean, he's not a gangster, but he's a career criminal. He's an arson. You know, he was in the Marines. He was discharged. Got some great actors in it. It's a great movie. We almost died making it, so I recommend it. It's called Dead Draw. You'll see a side of me that you didn't know was there. Thank you, Christine. Thank you. Appreciate that. Let me know if any of you guys watch those movies. You're gonna have to let me know. They're all on Tubi. You can watch them on Tubi for free. One of the other streaming sites that are free. You know, basically all of them have made their way there over the last few years. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me. I appreciate it. Thank you for making my first live very special. I appreciate it very much. Just keep an eye out for all that new content I have coming out. Yeah, if you're into the podcast, Bruce Lipton's coming up. A lot of people coming up. Yeah, but much love to you guys. I appreciate you. Everyone have a great, what's today, Wednesday? My God, it's hump day. I was going to say have a great weekend, but we're not there yet. Have a great week, into the weekend. Thank you, Carol. I appreciate you. I'm so glad that you found this, Carol. There are no accidents. Appreciate you guys very much. But I'm signing off because I have to get up early. Appreciate that, Jaguars. Trying, you know, you can only love and gratitude to you guys too. Thank you so much. Much love to you guys. Till next time. And I swear next time I'm going to set the notifications so it says when I'm going to go live. And I kind of messed it up today. I noticed that the one thumbnail was just my forehead for a half minute. I was like, oh my God. Tried to fix that real quick. I think I got rid of it before anyone saw it. But thank you, Adriana. Appreciate you guys. I'll be back soon, and we're going to talk more. There's a lot more to talk about. Thank you again.